Welcome to Melt. I'm Suresh Venkat. Today we're at Britannia's Research and Development Centre on the outskirts of Bangalore. We are here to meet the FMCG Major's Chief Marketing Officer Amit Doshi to find out more about the company's journey from bits to bytes, trends in snacking and marketing some of India's most well-known brands. So let's go in and get ready to melt with Britannia's Amit Doshi. Amit, the last couple of years we've all been locked in at home, and obviously that saw a boom in the snacking industry. But now things have opened up, people are back at work, people are back to their gym plans. Do you see a slowdown coming up in 2023?
Actually not, Suresh. It's just been that during COVID and after COVID have been slightly different times in terms of consumption, but more importantly, how companies and especially Britannia has had to respond to these situations. So just to provide a contrast, during COVID, what was paramount for us was to make sure that we're reaching our products to consumers without fail. And therefore, the strategy that we adopted during that period was to make sure that we prioritize the products that really matter and more importantly, make sure that we're communicating enough and collaborating enough as an organization to make sure that the products are reaching the market. So now that was a situation during COVID. Now what's happened once the market has opened up is a couple of things. First is that the pressure that we had in terms of distribution has obviously eased because the curbs have gone down. More importantly, we also see that there has been a bit of a bounce back from consumers while some of the health trends that emerged during COVID have stayed. But we also see that there is a section of consumers who wants to go back and enjoy that little bit that they'd missed out on. But to just pull back a little bit and talk about the company, I think we've stayed consistent on our strategy. Mm-hmm. Britannia has been consistent on its what we call our 5-pronged strategy, which is marketing and distribution, innovation, adjacencies, impetus on cost efficiency and sustainability. And making sure that we are laser focused on this strategy is ensured that we continue to grow very strong, both in terms of top lines and bottom lines. And the growth momentum that we saw during COVID has continued to sustain for us despite the challenges that we've seen on account of inflation.
And these 5 pillars that you talk about, what kind of revenues did they translate into?
Now, if you look at just revenue growths, our 2-year growths have been a very solid, very healthy 22%. If I look at the last couple of financial years, and we continue to see a strong growth momentum this financial year as well. And what's very heartening is that we've been able to balance this growth with very strong market share growths as well. We've grown a market share quarter on quarter now for 38 quarters. And if we look at the first half of FY 22-23, we've had the highest share that we've had in almost 15 years. And this we've managed to do while continuing to grow our operating margins. So it's been a very, very healthy and a very, very solid story on all fronts.
So a slowing down year or a slowing down economy or a global recession not impacting your segment that much?
So what we've seen is, if you look at, let's say, volume growths overall, we see some form of stagnation. But when we look at transactions, that's really what matters to us, because finally, we're in the business of making sure that we're building as many touch points for our brands with consumers as possible. We've actually seen very healthy double-digit transaction growth in this same period. And one of the big reasons for that is our, again, continued focus on distribution and innovation. As far as our distribution is concerned, we've continued to deepen our rural distribution, which has really helped us in this period to tide over the challenging times.
So Amit, we're sitting in your lovely R&D center in the city of Bangalore. Now the question is this: do the chefs at the R&D center come up with products and then you as a marketer need to learn how to market them? Or do you as a marketer go in the market, figure out what the market needs and then tell your chefs that this is what they need to come up with?
It's a lovely question. but it's a bit it's a bit like two partners together in the kitchen trying to rustle something up.
Okay.
And it's really pretty much that camaraderie that drives the innovation for us. And an idea could pop from anywhere. We of course have an R&D facility and an R&D team which we're extremely proud of, and they've been instrumental in bringing quite a few new to market products. So if I had to just give you an instance, last year we launched a new variant under Good Day called Good Day Harmony, which brings the absolute delight of multiple exotic nuts in a cookie. Now that was an idea that came straight out of the R&D team. There have been other instances. For example, if I look at Milk Bikis, which is an absolute iconic product down south, and especially in the state of Tamil Nadu, the marketing team realized that we were getting a lot of messages, a lot of fan mails, a lot of messages on social media that consumers were missing the classic avatar of Milk Bikis that they grew up with in the 80s and the 90s. So, we took that insight up, and then we worked with the R&D team to bring out Milk Bikis Classic to the market. Now, this was a very, very different example where the marketing team, came across an observation, turned it into a product idea, and then the R&D team collaborated beautifully.
Classic marketing says biscuits, bulbs, and blades are the three hardest categories to sell in India. Tell us about the challenges of marketing biscuits to India.
No, it's very interesting that you bring it up. And in fact, when I started my career about 20 years back, I was told that it's the same three Bs, and it's lovely to see you remind me of those. In fact, I was told that there are four Bs. And the fourth one is bread. And it's quite interesting that Britannia has a play in 2 out of those 4 Bs. And what happens with biscuits is that it poses very, very unique challenges on all different dimensions of the business. And I really like to summarize it in 3 A's. Right. So the first A is really about affordability and accessibility, which is making sure that consumers are getting high quality products, safe products at very, very affordable price points. The second A is about availability. And the third A is about making sure that our brands stay aspirational. Now, let's talk about each of these A's one at a time. Now, when it comes to affordability, and for us, the rupee 5 price point for the whole category is actually quite large. Now, how do you ensure that year on year, we make products that are available at rupees 5? In fact, we have a lot of products that are available, brands that are available.
These are all profitable products at rupees 5?
Yes, we've managed to build a strong, sustainable business out of these. And what's really important is we have a laser focus on cost efficiency. We're constantly looking at costs that are adding value to the consumer, and the ones that are not, we're making sure that we're pulling them out quite systematically. And that's made sure that we're always at the top of the game and we're able to deliver these products and keep them affordable for consumers. The second A is about availability. Now, if you look at biscuits, it's such a large category. And if you look at the universe of outlets, it runs into millions. Now, that means that we've got to constantly invest in growing our rural distribution. We go to more than 26 lakh outlets directly. We have more than 28,000 rural dealers who make sure that we're available today across the length and breadth of the country. So availability is really a strong second pillar. Mm-hmm. The other dimension on availability is not just that the products are available, but they're also available fresh for consumers to consume. And what we've done over the last few years is we've invested in our own factories, which has ensured that we're getting closer to the consumer, getting closer to the point of consumption. It reduces the distance that our products travel, and therefore we also ensure as a result that the products are getting fresh as far as to the hands of the consumers. The third one is about aspiration. And what that means is we continue to keep a tab on the consumer pulse. Where are their consumption patterns shifting to? Where are their preferences shifting to? And therefore, how do we keep bringing out products through our innovation engine that keep us relevant with the consumers? And food, as you know, is you're craving. You want to try a new product, a new snack all the time. Snacking, by its definition, is exploratory, and it's important that we keep up with the aspiration levels of the consumers.
So the 3 A's is the answer
Yeah.
to the 3 B's. Amit, you're a computer science grad
Yeah.
and an MBA, and you dealt with a very different kinds of bits and bytes
Yeah.
from the bytes that you do today. How do those bits and bytes translate into the kind of bytes that you're dealing with now?
No, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because I myself have thought about that. What did my computer science degree finally do for my career? And for me, I think it's also it's been the computer science degree, but it's also been 9 years of being in the IT industry before rejoining Britannia. I was with Lenovo for 9 years, where, as you said, I quite literally dealt with the bits and the bytes. Computer science is, by the way, a beautiful discipline. I'm absolutely in love with the discipline. And there are 2 or 3 things. At the first level, I think it teaches you how to think logically. And in computer science, it's really about, when you're trying to solve a problem, it's about breaking the problem down into smaller, manageable pieces, and then figuring a solution for each of them. And then the whole solution comes together. So over the years, it's definitely added a lot to how I structure my thinking and decision making. So that's one. The second one, I think it's, again, drawing, if you're familiar with how the discipline of coding works,
I am.
A piece of code is not just meant to solve a problem. A lot of people can write a good piece of code, but a good piece of code is actually like a poem, is like a good piece of poetry. It's there's brevity, there's simplicity, there's elegance, and there's finally impact in terms of solving the problem that you set out to do. And I find myself drawing into that world quite a bit, at least on the basics of coding, and applying them into real world solutions. So that's the one that I keep coming back to, and especially in communication design. How do you keep communication to be impactful, but at the same time, how do you make it very, very simple for consumers to understand, and how do you make it punchy? The third thing I think it's given me is it's gifted me curiosity and comfort with technology. So if there's something new that's happening out there, there's natural curiosity to find out more.
From what I can see, you manage a lot of brands.
Yeah.
Right? I can count at least 25 that I can count, maybe many more. So how do you split your time between all these brands?
It's a constant pursuit of prioritization, and it's pretty much Suresh, an everyday battle. Now, I think there are 2 or 3 things which are very, very important. One has got to be very clear about the role that each of these brands play in the portfolio. Now, there are brands that are meant to be future engines of growth and are meant to drive equity and image, and they will become very large brands tomorrow, but today they're small and they need to be nurtured. Then there are brands which drive scale and mass revenue for us. And then there is this other bucket of brands which may not have the same scale, but drive profitability. And if one is clear about the roles that each of these brands play in the overall portfolio and for the business, it's very easy to then figure out, how do you really prioritize and what are the actions that are going to drive the agenda for each of these brands.
And each brand has its own personalities. You have to remember that
Absolutely.
Each one is unique like a human being.
Exactly. Each one is unique like a human being. And again, a lot like other organizations, we have our own rigor around that. We have our lighthouses for each of our brands. And while lighthouses are not meant to be, meant to constrain our work, but they definitely paint a very vivid picture of the world that the brand needs to exist in. So I think it's a little bit of making sure that we're very clear of the role that each of these brands play in the overall scheme of the business, and then how are their personalities is different, and making sure that everyone, the creative partners, the teams internally, the cross-functional teams, everyone's aware of both of these agendas.
Now let's get into the classic debate, brand marketing versus performance marketing. So how do you split your decisions?
Right. No, that's an interesting question. I don't believe in the divide. I believe that all marketing is meant to be performance marketing. right? I mean, if there is brand marketing that's not delivering brand or business impact, then it's advertising or marketing for advertising's sake, right? I mean, finally, commercial artists, all of the work that we do has to deliver effectiveness in terms of business outcomes. But going back into the functional question that you asked, I think it's now got empirically established, I would say, not proven, category by category, industry by industry, that 60-40 is a good healthy ratio between the two disciplines, and we try and keep an eye on that. Are we making sure that 60 to 65% of our investments, are they going on to really building the long-term equity for the brand? And then, of course, there are shorter-term challenges, shorter-term business objectives to be managed. And it's really a good, healthy mix. Now, for some brands, that ratio may skew. If we are starting out building awareness for a new brand, then 70-80% might
Will
go
be on the brand side.
Right. But if there's a more established brand, then more investments may flow into market activation. But yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act that the team has to do every single day.
And one core aspect of digital marketing is the ability to retarget or hyper-personalize. How has that impacted your work as a marketeer?
That's opened up a completely new world of opportunities for us. And you could see it in many different ways. One, I think it's allowed us to build experiences for consumers which were not possible, let's say, 10 years back. And just to give you, a couple of examples as to how Britannia is really working with some of these. One is, let's say, around the brand bourbon, which is much loved by consumers.
People like me.
Yes, we all grew up on bourbon,
Yeah.
right? And what we realized that there's a large youth cachet which consumes bourbon, and we wanted to build a real personal digital experience for them. And what we did was we built an AR based campaign where consumers could buy a pack of bourbon, they could scan the QR code, and they then immediately go into an AR game which they play with a friend.
The virtual bourbon universe. Where everything
So
is made of
they
bourbon.
all come in. They play a game of football, and and the winners actually got to win big at the end of it. So what it's really done is helped us build experiences which were earlier very, very difficult to build, and we're building these experiences straight off the pack, right? So it's not that you have to go to a website or you have to log into another system to do something, or you have to go to a venue. You buy a pack and you're straight into an experience within a few seconds. So it's really, in a nutshell, it's opened up a completely different world of opportunities for us.
Now let's talk about data, Amit. We live in an era of data glut. Now this data glut can either help validate all your decisions or can completely derail your gut instinct. So how do you balance data versus gut instinct?
That has always been the classic left brain versus right brain battle within marketing, isn't it? And a lot of us start out as marketeers being more left brain dominated, and then we cultivate.
Especially those of you who are computer scientists are even more left brain.
100%. And then there are those who start with a natural gift of the right brain, and then they've got to obviously balance it out with data and analytics, and making sure that they're not just getting driven by gut and their instinct. So it's this constant jugalbandi that has to again happen between the left and the right. But I see it in two ways. First is data is meant to obviously guide you. You need to be grounded, by data, but data can't paralyze you. So, data can only tell you so much, and then post that you've got to, make a leap based on your gut. Now, again, when one talks about gut, the gut is sometimes seen as something that's
magical,
or fuzzy.
Yeah.
But it actually isn't. If you think of it, your gut has got sharpened with years of experience,
and studies show that as well.
Years of conditioning and looking at data. So what one is seeing, what one thinks of it as gut, I actually think of it as human machine learning. It's learned over a period of time, and when you need it, it's able to. So that's one. But however, as you said, there are disciplines in marketing, for example, communication development, where research can only tell you so much. And then you can come up with a piece of advertising that's got great logic, but it's the creative instinct in the gut which can really transform that piece of creative, which seems like it's based on sound logic, to magic. Now that leap can only come with instinct and gut.
You're watching Melt. We're in conversation with Amit Doshi, CMO of Britannia. We are in Britannia's R&D center in Bangalore. More specifically, we're right now in the culinary lab. So, Amit, I imagine this is where Chef Naseem cooks up all those delicious recipes. And how much of these do actually get sent up to you for tasting?
A lot.
You're quite a fit guy, so it doesn't seem like you're overdoing this.
It's a lot of effort to do that, but no, a lot. But and it's important that again. At Britannia, it's always been a tradition that whatever we're putting out, dishing out to consumers is something that everyone within the company and especially the management is quite familiar with and personally invests a lot of time on.
So I don't know about you, Amit. The moment I get diet conscious, these are the foods I avoid. I avoid anything with sugar in it. How does this impact your sales and your marketing?
If you look at the consumer landscape in India, it is obvious that there are many needs that different consumers have. And as Britannia, our endeavor is two things, right? First is to make sure that there is a baseline level of goodness that all our products consist, right? And then the second is to make sure that we have different products that are tailored to different requirements. So let me talk about the first one. Britannia was actually the first company to completely remove trans fats from all of its products. In fact, 50% of all our products are enriched with micronutrients that, along with enjoyment, also ensure that you're getting the basic requirements that you have for micronutrients and fulfill a small part of the requirement of micronutrients that you have in a day. Now, specifically coming to you, right, there are quite a few products that I actually can suggest for your specific requirements. First of all, not everything's sweet from Britannia, right? So there's the 50-50 potazos. If you want to try that.
Okay. So this is a potato-based snack, I imagine.
Yes, you may want to try that. So this is something that we launched a few quarters back, and it's doing very well. It's a really thin potato cracker which is flavored. On the other hand, for example, for the specific ask that you make, there are quite a few products under the brand Nutri Choice. So this specific one is called Digestive Zero. This
is a brand I consume regularly.
Yes, so these are
okay.
That's wonderful. So this product we launched again a few quarters back. It's doing very well. Again, this is a digestive product which is made with 100% atta. And there's no added sugar. Mm-hmm. So again, for a specific requirement that you're seeking, there's a product that delivers perfectly for your needs.
As a marketer, how do you know when exactly a product should be launched in the market? How do you time it?
Now that's again a very well managed process, as you would imagine in an organization like Britannia. Every company has their own version of a stage gate process to manage innovation, and we have ours too. The products that get developed, that come up as ideas at the start of the process, do get rigorously validated either through quantitative or qualitative processes. And when they're meeting the requirements of the consumers and they're making, a great business case is an absolute double tick box for us to launch. But to give you a very short answer, it's a very well managed process within the company.
Let's talk about your recent foray into coffee snacks.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the steps that went through? Because India is largely, I imagine, a tea drinking country, and you've launched a coffee snack.
What we realized that the coffee culture had started to take very strong roots in the country. Parts of the country were always very rich with the coffee culture. And then, of course, with the cafes that have started to come up over the last few years, people have taken keen interest to coffee. It's far smaller compared to what's tea, and it may take years to get there, but it is a growing opportunity. And then what we realized was there was so much conversation around coffee, and people were seeking choices that go very well with coffee. And that's really how Biscafe was born. Biscafe is this really thin coffee flavored cracker which goes very well with coffee, and that's really our proposition. It's the perfect partner to your coffee.
Amit, you said in the earlier part of this interview that you listen very carefully to your consumers. So how does Britannia listen to its consumers without being intrusive or creepy?
We have a variety of modes. Then there's, of course, traditional research, whether it's qualitative research or quantitative research through which we are constantly talking to consumers, or they're part of surveys for which they've obviously given permissions. But we've also started to now build systems and processes so that we're able to proactively listen to
Social media, for instance.
Social media. A simple scroll through e-commerce reviews will tell you what consumers think about a particular category or a particular brand or a specific product that's just got launched. And that's a new way of listening in. And we're again instituting these processes so that they don't just exist, but also become a part of our lifeblood.
I imagine deals and discounts are a difficult thing in your business because your product's already pretty fairly competitively priced.
Yeah.
So what roles do deals and discounts and offers play in your marketing playbook?
That's a tricky one to manage, and it's always a fine balancing act. But as Britannia, our philosophy, Suresh, is very, very focused on building brands for the long term. So a lot of our investments go in making sure that as you said, our products are high quality. They're great as far as sensorials are concerned. We're reaching them to the places where consumers want them. And we're building brands for the long term. So that's where a bulk of our investments go in. Yes, as far as the extra grammages and deals and discounts are concerned, they are we look at them on a case-to-case basis, but that's really not where a lot of our attention
is.
That's clearly not the focus
push
for us.
Now, Amit, you manage a lot of brands, and each of these brands has to be top of the consideration set for a consumer. So how do you first make sure that all these brands are in the consideration set of all your consumer groups?
A lot of our brands, Suresh, have been around for decades, and they're blockbuster brands. I mean, if you look at a brand like Good Day or 50/50 or Marigold or even Nutri Choice. So they're so deep into everyday lives and in popular culture. So there is a tendency that you could, take that for granted sometimes, or could get complacent. And really the solve for it, in my view, is to stay connected with the consumers and not only know where they are right now, but where they're headed. And I'll give you a couple of examples to that effect. A brand like Good Day. What we started to see was in social media, in digital, people were, talking about, the moments that really light up their day. But we also saw that the consumption pattern was moving to shorter form videos. We're all guilty of spending a little just too much time on reels and shorts and so on and so forth. So we saw that the content consumption pattern itself was changing. So the Good Day campaign that we put out earlier last year was a set of films which are all actually they're all TV commercials, by the way, but they're only 15 seconders. They're all inspired from the short content world. The second example is the brand Marigold that you spoke about. And what we saw was that there was this whole emergence of this behavior where women wanted to, aspiration behavior where women wanted to be more and do more, right? The homemaker, the Indian homemaker, has been the core audience for Marigold for many years. And that's when we tweaked the pitch, where Marigold then became the cheerleader for women to stretch out and achieve more in their lives, in everyday lives.
And we are told by your agency partners that you're keen on experimenting with both languages and formats. You spoke about formats. Tell us about some of the language experiments you're running.
What's happened with the internet is regional languages, even dialects, have found a new breeding ground found a new voice. Absolutely. So, for example, for a Milk Bikkies campaign that we did with the talented team who had just come on board, was that we did a campaign for Tamil Nadu, but each of these films was obviously in Tamil, but they were all in different regional dialects within the state. Even within the state, there are multiple dialects. So we shot 5 films and each one of them was in a different dialect. So that's as hyper regional as it gets. So, from moving from mainstream one language to vernacular to now actually moving to dialects within a state. And that's the power that digital provides you. That's one instance. The second is how we're tapping into popular culture. Again, I'll use the same Milk Bikkies example. For Milk Bikkies Classic, we've recently launched a campaign called Milk Bikkies Nicknames Contest, where what we're doing is we've actually put down the popular nicknames that were prevalent in the 80s and the 90s for kids on our biscuits. And we're using that as a medium to bridge the divide between parents and kids. So we find parents creating videos with kids talking about the nicknames that they had for themselves. So, this is again another example of how we are getting really, really deep into the cultural truths of a particular market.
So, Amit, other than mainline advertising, activations are something that Britannia is really, really good at.
Right.
But my question is this: how do you decide which brand is suited for which activation? Because a bourbon can work across demographics, so can a Good Day, and so can a Mari, and so can any of the other brands. Right? So, how do you decide which brand is suitable for which activation?
Yeah. So for us, activation is always an extension of the central creative idea. That trumps everything else. And for me, activation is a very before you come to an activation idea, it's a very simple framework that we follow. Right? It's like a triangle. It has three ends. The first one is, what's the consumer insight? Where is the friction in the consumer's lives? The second end of the triangle is what's happening in popular culture. What's the tension in the world around you? And the third is what can brand really authentically do and drive? And the confluence of all three finally leads us to an activation idea.
Amit, on that note, my final question to you: the rise of ChatGPT, AI, and DALL-E and services like that. Are you playing around with that personally?
I'm of course playing it, and the computer science kid in me is loving it. But coming to, I think there have also been practical and real applications in our own work. So for example, for the brand Nutri Choice. So what we did was we actually made a personalized diet advice tool in the World Diabetes Day that just went by. So all you do is you get to a chatbot, you give in a few details on a WhatsApp chatbot, and what you get then is personalized advice in form of videos that were shot with an expert nutritionist who could give you tailored advice, and that video was talking to Suresh.
So it's custom made for every
Absolutely, custom made. And there we leverage the power of AI to build these custom videos for each of the consumers. So that's really one-on-one marketing, but on scale. But coming to some of the tools that that one is talking about, so it's exciting, and yes, it's also calling for rethinking and reimagining what the roles of.
So should marketers be worried that their jobs could get taken over by AI?
I don't think so. I think marketers should be excited about the possibilities that lie ahead of them. But as I say, look, in times where AI is becoming stronger and machines are becoming more intelligent, the strength of the human and what humans should be doing is to double down on things that make them more human. So things that are really strengths for us is what we need to double down on. But our philosophy is very simple. As far as new technologies are concerned, the Britannia marketing team will continue to aggressively learn and experiment. In fact, for one of our brands, Biscafe, we're very excited about a verse that we're building. Young people can enter, they can interact with themselves, and they can learn about global coffee culture. So,
all right, Amit Doshi of Britannia, thank you very much for talking to us at Melt.
Thank you, Suresh. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. All right, so that was time well spent at the Britannia R&D facility in Britannia, the outskirts of Bangalore city. You can follow us. Our handle is Ready to Melt, or you can log on to readytomelt.com. If you'd like to follow me, I'm at Suvenk on Twitter. Till next week, goodbye.